Hey, where are you
Hi.
joining us from?
Okay. Very good to see you, Ami. How are you today?
Good. I'm full disclosure, I am in the middle of medicine making.
Okay, great.
But
Good.
I actually just sat through another really enlightened meeting, and so I'm loving the energy that's going into the remedy. So it's good.
Great, great, great.
Yeah.
The energy is movement and building and creating.
Mhm.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Good, good, good.
Yeah.
Well, I know more people are going to arrive, but because we're punctual people here, we
No
will get
worries. No worries.
started. What was that?
I said no worries at all.
Yeah, great. So we can get started. So welcome, David. It's so good to see you. It's
Always
nice
good to
to
see
be
you.
able to interview my brother, my older brother.
Only brother and older brother. Yeah. No
Only and
sisters.
older, yes. I have three sisters and one brother.
No.
So you were surrounded by women.
Yeah. That was good though, because it made me really self-conscious about dating, and it made me self-conscious about, like, I don't want to be one of those guys that they talk about after a date.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're a good guy, I do have to say. So I'm so happy to be able to interview you and have you work with our people today. I would like to get started because I know you very well. But partially how we're going to get started is because I actually don't know you in every corner of your life and in your career. So I am curious if you would like to share about your journey as where you are now, which is an executive coach and head of sales, often in companies. But you definitely didn't start there. And
No.
everyone here knows that our dad is a forester and an entrepreneur for that reason. And our mother supported him in that journey.
Yep.
They have that foundation and that background for us, for you and I. But I am very curious about your journey of that growth and that arc of growth from when you were in college till where you are today. I know that's a lot to ask, but we would love to
Yeah.
hear
No,
it
it's
too.
good. I think it's a, interesting story for sure, because I lived it, but also it's painful. I mean, we didn't have a ton of money to pay for college. And so at some point, I had to learn how to make my way. And if you're familiar with, probably not too familiar with Utah, but one thing that we're really good at, besides, just knocking doors, is also selling and knocking doors. And so, like, a lot of door-to-door companies start here, and they recruited me to go work. And you can make a lot of money selling different things. And I started doing that. I wasn't very good though. I almost quit. And then a manager said, "Hey, why don't you go out with me and let me show you how I do it?" And then I remember after that, I never had a day where I didn't make a sale. Like, it was just a flip. I was like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that's the difference maker." And it's small little tweaks. So I was able to pay for my schooling. And then from there, people thought that I was going to be good enough to teach them how to sell. So I started teaching people how to sell, and moved up into leadership development, teaching people how to lead. But I still coach people who sell, and I wasn't good at it, so I understand what that's like. But I also understand, like, what works. So,
That was a really quick summary,
oh yeah, I
which
can go into greater detail if you
which
want, but
is
I
great. I
promise,
will
like, I'd
ask,
rather do the back and forth.
yeah, yeah, I will ask all the questions. Great. So knowing that you are LDS, you're Mormon, and you went on a
Yep.
mission, and
Yep.
that set you up for selling and knocking on doors and being uncomfortable, really. 2 years in Ecuador that you were
Right.
at and speaking Spanish and helping people, find the church. I'm curious, when you came back from your mission, you started selling. What was it that changed the most from that one meeting with the manager?
One, like, he went into, like, character. Like, we were just talking on the doorstep, and then the woman answered the door, and then all of a sudden I saw him change into, like, a different persona. And I thought, what is going on here? And then she was like, "No, I don't want it." And then I remember about ready to turn my back, because I'm like, "Oh, she said she doesn't want it." And then he, like, stayed right there, and he says, "Yeah, like, most people also, they still have problems." And then he just pushed through it. And the next thing I know, she's signing up. And I thought, that was weird. Like she went from I don't want it to signing paperwork. And so the watching of that take place was mind blowing, but very interesting to me. And then I go, oh, if that's what it is, I know how to do that. So so I teach people how to do that
Yeah,
at the doorstep or if they're talking to another business or a client. And it's practice. And I can usually, what I do here, and maybe you'll like this, I can predict what you're going to say before you say it. So, and that's the key to being really good at sales is you kind of know what's going to happen before it happens. So let's do an actual demo if you want.
great.
So let's assume we're knocking doors here and I'm going to try to predict what you're going to say. Let's
Okay.
say I'm the homeowner. So you're knocking
Yeah.
on my door and you knock on it, I open it, and then you tell me what you're going to sell. Let's just say it's pest control, which is what I was selling for a little bit.
And what does
And
pest
I
control
tell
mean?
you, you're the rep, I'm the homeowner. I tell you, no, I'm actually not interested. I don't want it.
Yeah,
I already have a service.
you have
But I
terminals
can
already.
predict what you're going to say before you say it. So even think of a response. This goes for Monique or is it Amy or Ami? How do you pronounce her name?
On me.
Ami. And then you have Brittany who just joined us. Try to think of a response to that objection. So again, you knock on my door. I'm the homeowner. You're the sales rep. You're selling pest control. And I tell you, no, I don't really want it. I already have a good pest control company I work for or work with. You're going to say one of three things. You're going to either say, who are you working with? Like, what company is it? You're going to either say, how much are you paying for it? And then you're going to ask me if you're happy with it. One of those three. So did that? And I'm curious if somebody had another response, what it was exactly.
I would say most people are probably like, okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah,
Without
right.
even engaging and being curious, right?
Right. And I tell them you have to engage. So what would you say if you had to engage? Who are you with? Are you happy with it? How much are you paying? One of those three.
Yep. I would ask, who are they with?
Yeah. And then I would tell you ABC pest control. Then you would say, are you happy with it or how much you paying? Right. And the
Yeah.
key to that is like I can predict what you're going to say. So I already have responses ready. And so really good at sales is knowing exactly what you offer and knowing the questions that are going to come to you before they happen.
Hmm.
And once you know that and you got your core offer really tight, it's really fun to engage because the person who asked the question controls the conversation. So I would, if they said that to me, because let's say like, what was your response, Laura? What was the you said, who are you with? That's the response you had. Let's say I have ABC pest control, then you would say what?
I'd be curious how much you pay for that
Right.
per
And I'd
month.
say, ah, it's not too much, it's actually pretty cheap. And then you would say what?
Are you happy with them?
Yeah. And I would say, yeah, I'm happy. And then that would be it, right? You'd be done.
Yep.
Because I controlled the conversation, right? I was essentially dictating where it was going to go. But let's say I actually sold, which is what I did and made a good living doing it. I would say, yeah, you'd be crazy not to have something. I would acknowledge what you said. I'd say, of course you do. I would say that's actually why I'm here. And
Uh-huh.
then the homeowner would stop and look at me and go, it's a different, no one thought to say that. And by the way, I had to train myself to say that because you're conditioned to say the wrong thing. But even if I asked you, hey, I'm coming into your town where you live, give me some places to eat that you suggest. You'd start thinking of places to eat. In sales, you can't do that. You actually have to overcome your conditioning and start thinking, well, what kind of places are you looking for? Like, what's the event? What's the occasion? If I asked you or if I paid you based on the ticket amount I paid at that restaurant, all of a sudden your brain would start to change and how it thinks about what you're going to provide.
Right. Right. You're talking more to the person and getting curious about
Yeah,
them than the product or the service itself.
right.
Yeah.
And so I would say that's actually why I'm here. When they would say, I already have a service, I don't need one. I go, yeah, that's actually why I'm here. You'd be crazy not to have something. And they would look at me and then I would say something about their neighbors because social proof. We have a lot of people switching over because they're still seeing a lot of those ants. And then I would say, and since we're in the area, we could save you money. Then I would smile really big when I would say that. And they would say, how much? And then I would always ask them the square footage of their house, right? Then I would figure out where the problem areas were before I gave them a price. So that sequence of questions was so thought out that I knew what was going to happen before it could happen. Even if they said, I don't have any bugs, I'd say, yeah, most of the time people don't have them on the inside. It's just out in the yard. I would agree and then redirect them to the yard.
Mm-hmm.
So we had that. And I think whatever you offer or whatever you sell, you got to have a sequence of questions that you're going to guide them towards. So no matter what they throw at you or what kind of people say, you know exactly where it's going to go. And then you train a staff to do that as well.
Great. That's really helpful. It's interesting thinking about, but you're talking about your target audience here, right? You already know you're selling to a homeowner who already has pest control. So you already know there's a certain income
Yeah.
level, a certain level of assuming, right? You're assuming that's where the sales are coming from.
Yeah.
So you're talking about your target audience and knowing that person really well and knowing how to predict this. I'm
Yep.
curious if you can share any time selling pest control, which I know you paid for your entire master's at Harvard by selling
Yep.
pest control
Yep.
in one summer, which is
Yeah. Paid
amazing.
for it. Yep. In cash.
You
So
were
like it was a big
hardcore
accomplishment for me.
on
Yeah.
the road, 12 hours a day sometimes.
Yep.
Um, I am actually really curious about times that surprised you. If there were any outliers in those
Yeah.
moments that you really noticed that have stayed with you.
Yeah, just how hard it is. Like it's simple but hard. Like when you get somebody who comes out of the door and and they kind of confront you and their nervous energy kind of makes you nervous. Sometimes I'm surprised at
Mm,
how quickly I want to get out of the situation and how hard it is to stay in the pocket, as we call it, to remain in this pocket of discomfort when you think this isn't going to go anywhere. And that's always still hard for me because conflict, I think, is not something I feel comfortable just being with, especially with a stranger, you know? Um, so it's just persistence and the difficulty of staying in a zone of discomfort is still shocking to me. How even at the end of the summer, I was like still very sensitive to how people felt and conflict. And so that's something I never really overcame, but I think that also made me good at selling because I was in tune with the person pretty well.
I think that's really helpful. There's a lot of folks here who have shared that they're really uncomfortable selling. It feels uncomfortable.
It
They
does,
don't
yeah.
they don't like associating selling with their service or product because it feels dirty, or I'm using words that
Yeah.
they probably haven't used, but
I think they're doing it wrong. I mean, not saying that this audience, but like they're doing it wrong if they feel
bad.
salesy. Like, because I did
Yeah.
it my way and I was very anti-sales. And even people who would watch me sell, because a lot of people would watch me and they're like, oh my gosh, like you break all the rules in some ways. Like I wasn't a hard closer. I was kind of like, it's up to you. What do you feel like doing? You
Hmm.
know? And I had a lot of sales. I was ranked, number one and two in the whole company, but I did it the way I felt was authentic to me.
And people can feel that,
Yeah.
right? Humans are very in tune with authenticity.
Yeah. And it's very sensitive, delicate between sale and no sale. I've always been impressed and almost like scared of how just a little bit can tilt the sale in your direction.
Right,
And that's the difference between someone who's good at it and really good or great.
right. So you've been in a lot of sales experiences since then.
Yeah.
You did pest control door to door, worked on commission, made a great amount of money, paid
Yep.
off your school. Tell us the different sales experiences you've had since then, your
Yeah.
own and others, just to
Yep.
give context for the diversity
It's a great
experience.
question because a lot of people assume sales is sales, and there's some truth, but there's relationship-based sales. So after that, I help people sell to doctors. They just like substitute teachers work in schools, hospitals have substitute doctors. And so the company I work for was selling to doctors to go work these temporary jobs. And then we had another set of salespeople that sold to the hospitals to open up a job. And that's a very long term, we call it relationship based sale, which means your customer comes back to you many times and purchases from you many times over. And so that's like they call that a book of business, where you kind of work a client list and you just stay in contact. And then you have the transactional type sale, which is just one and done. Like door to door, I sold it and then I left and I probably never saw that person or spoke to that person again. And then the other teams took over. So you have these two types, and depending on the type of sale you're in, kind of dictates the type of approach you're going to take. I noticed in the relationship-based sales, so I worked for a Fortune 500. They sold payment systems to like restaurants or entrepreneurs. Like you don't use tactics anymore. You don't really use like little word phrases like you do in transactional sales. And it's a very long-term approach. Like you camp with these people sometimes. You play on the same softball team. And it's very much communal, meaning you establish yourself in the community so people trust you, which is challenging too when you think about trying to sell something when you're crossing over into those personal fields. But so those are the two types of sales that I see. People will say B2B, B2C. I actually don't. With B2B is more long-term relationship-based sale. So I take the same approach with that than the B2C, but you can still have B2C, which is you're working that same client list over and over as things develop and you want to call them that same person, that book of business. So does that make sense how
Yeah,
you have the
absolutely.
transactional version and then you have this relationship based one?
Yep. And I think that in our group, there's so many practitioners, it makes sense that that book of business, this long-term approach, which means
Yeah,
long leads sometime, right? It might take 2 years for them to purchase from
sometimes.
you. So it's about building that relationship and not making it feel transactional versus people who are trying to sell products, not sure of that. Of course, they want returning customers. It's an important part of business,
Right,
but they're not sure if that person will return, but having those sales numbers and reaching that quota is really important to them. So we,
right.
we do see both D2C and B2B, B2B, business to business, of course, wholesale. And in product line, wholesale is that long-term relationship also because you want them to repurchase it.
Right.
And
It's
you're direct to
trust. It's a lot of
customer,
trust.
a
Yep.
lot of trust, and a lot of being able to work with their specifications of what they need to meet for their boss or their
Right.
new quotas, whatever that is. So that
It's
absolutely makes sense in this
Yeah.
capacity.
And you have a lot of crossover in those two. You're absolutely right. But the key is like, can you create, we call it cognitive dissonance in sales, which is what do they want to really understand? What is it that this person or business owner wants? And then what's their current reality? And believe it or not, they don't know what they want as much as you think they do. A rule I tell people in sales is even if the person tells you, I want this, they don't actually know that's what they want. They said it, but you have to kind of let them kind of work through that desire because it's going to turn out to be potentially different than what you thought. And then you have to kind of talk about, well, what's your current situation like? What's the things holding you back from achieving that? And the more you can create clarity on both what they want and where they are, then you can easily, and I say easily, like not easily, like you're going to make the sale, but you can now position yourself to be a solution to that problem.
I love that, especially for the practitioners in the room, because that's the piece where, and I know Ami has a question, but that's the piece where people are like, oh, it's really hard for me to get a client. And a
Yes.
lot of times I'm like, because they don't actually know that you are going to be extremely valuable to them. You know you're going to be valuable. How do you create that opportunity? And I'm really excited for you to work with some folks here, including me, on how do you create those relationships that people are at least willing to try the first consultation
Yeah.
to really get an idea of who you are and what value you bring to them.
And it's knowledge, right? I mean, the more relationship-based sale, you're more of a professional consultant. Like people will come back to you or rely on you because they understand you're a source of wisdom as it relates to a particular field. Transactional sales, I need to know a decent amount to be able to sell it, but in a relationship, you have to be more expert.
You're right.
And so your advantage is to have knowledge about the thing that you want to sell, but you first have to understand what they want and then tailor your knowledge to their situation. I think a big mistake is people teach and talk too much in sales. they don't quite go to the point where they're understanding first and then tailoring their solution to their situation.
So understanding first,
First, always, yeah.
tailoring. Yes, great. Understanding first, asking questions, getting curious.
Yeah.
Where are you? Where are you at in your life? Tell me more.
Yep.
And then tailoring your offer, your service to whatever they just said.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. I mean, even I did college admissions consulting because I worked in the admissions office at Harvard. So a lot of people ask me to help them get into these top schools. And you would think that it's very, when they call me or want help, I would know exactly what they want. But the key to me being effective is to ask them like, well, what's the dream for you? Like, what is it that you want to do? Because they'll reveal things to me that I could use to tailor my solution to them. And that's very important in sales, is that they feel like you're actually paying attention to what's important, right? If they go, we want our kid to be in a college where they feel like more than just a number, I'm going to log that away. And then before I start giving them solutions, I'm going to ask more about that. Like, what does that mean? What's your experience now that more than a number? Tell me more about that, right? And they'll reveal some things. And then when I propose the colleges that could be a good fit, I'm thinking and using of those phrases like directly back at them. So they go, oh, like you're really paying attention.
Great. That's actually really helpful because a lot of people here have discovery calls. They have people that
Right.
are interested in their consulting work or long-term consulting, 4 to 6 months sometimes a year. And so these are really helpful. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty there. Ami,
Yeah.
I know you have a question.
Oh, yeah. She's had her hand up for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to move the room because my husband's working at the other side. He's
Oh,
on the phone. I was like, they're gonna ask me right when he. Yeah. So, well, first, I just want to say, like, I definitely echo everything you're saying. I have an existing business that, like, I can fully wrap my head around everything you're saying as a realtor. Like, my 11 years as a realtor, I've learned all of that stuff trial by fire.
yep.
And it's really cool to like hear you saying it and think about how it is with a real estate transaction. I'm having the hardest time like trying to figure out what that means as a health and wellness coach or herbalist, which is interesting. But actually, I raised my hand because you were talking about the two kinds of sales call, basically. And I was
Yeah.
wondering if you could just speak to how that intersects with repeat clients, referral business. And I mean, you touched on it a little bit after I raised my hand, but also like I'm thinking specifically of word of mouth. Just like if you could say more about that, because I live in a really small community and I know that that's big part of the real estate, but I know that that's going to be moving forward with the coaching, a big part of how I get clients. And it's one way I really want to get clients. So I want to make sure that I'm including that in my pitch, if that makes sense.
hmm Yeah. In a lot of ways, I've seen um, people bake that into the sales offer, but you only do it after you get a sale, or you can solicit it through like, hey, referral incentives. I like personally that you're so good at what you do that you're very almost unreasonable in how good you are, like how much you go above and beyond. Like it naturally cascades into people bringing in their friends because you go be above and beyond of what they typically consider to be good service. I help businesses scale at this stage in my career. And one thing that's very important to know is that when you scale a business, like what I don't typically see is like I see a lot of $1 million companies get stuck. And I can almost guess every time that it has something to do with their offer, their core offer. Like what is exactly that they offer the person that's almost irresistible. And then I tell them as well, like consider yourself a customer service company that so happens to do fill in the blank real estate, or so happens to sell life or be a life coach. If you look at your business as customer service business, that is your profession. You just so happen to do even like roof repair or plumbing. You will be better than 95%, and people will naturally start to refer to others because you're just that good at what they trust, the fact that they're going to be taken care of. And it's a lot easier too to ask like, hey, like, is there anybody else that you think would benefit from this? I haven't really seen that scale as much as just being so good and watching the fruits of that come in. in terms of people will bring like, what are you doing that brought you this? Or how did you get you look like you're happier. How are you, what's going on with you? And then like, oh, they can't wait to tell them. Yeah, Ami.
What if people don't know that you're so good? You know what I mean? Like I haven't been a coach as long, but like in real estate, the example would be like there's a lot of shit realtors out there, and
Yeah.
people don't realize when they've gotten signed up with someone and then they call me and I'm like, oh wow, this contract's messed up. Oh geez, they told you to do what? Like, oh, they didn't offer you this,
Yeah.
you know? And like how do you like,
Great
I mean, is
question.
that built into your offer or like, yeah, can you talk about
I
that?
sell the diagnostic. So in that example, if you're very good at what you do, people love to get a diagnostic. Like you'll get a free consultation if you come in, and by nature of doing a good diagnostic, like I'll give you a free quote or a free session, then people are enticed to like, everybody wants to be assessed. And like they're willing to like, yeah, I'll have you take a look at this, or I'll let you do an estimate on my yard of how much a landscaping job. Well, yeah, I'm willing. But if you're good at what you do, you sell the diagnostic and the diagnostic sells the offer or the product. But I like selling the diagnostic. So in answer to your question, if people don't know about you, my offer is the free consultation or the diagnostic, because I'm confident that once I get them there, I can sell them the rest of the way.
Can I ask a clarifying question to that?
Yeah.
Using sales language, would you say, hey, you're working with other health and wellness coaches and you're not seeing a big change? Hey, let me get you a diagnostic. Would you state the problem that you think people are walking in with? Or would you say free, health and wellness coaching for folks that are on their journey, right?
Right. Yeah, I think you speak to the fact they're not getting the results that they wanted,
Okay.
or they're not making traction. And then you have some testimonials on your website that you don't bake that into your pitch. That's a little harder to share. But you have some data once you get enough information about to say, look, I've been doing this for 10 years and I've only worked with just a handful of clients. I'm very picky. And the reason why they keep coming back to me is because of this. And then you have some data behind that. The more you're equipped to speak to results, right? Whatever it is that, and the effort it takes to get those, like the more that you can, that diagnostic is, they're going to always stall. Like, I don't know if like once you get to the commitment, they're going to have some questions, and that's okay. But if you're good at like really assessing and getting to know people and going, this is what I see. Here's a roadmap potentially. And are we talking the context of life coaching? Or are we talking and
Health
selling
coaching,
product?
yeah. But I think the way that I'm seeing this as an herbalist, because everyone here is an herbalist in some way. Um, I could see this working really well. And David, you tell me if this is something you would sign up for, where it's like taking all these herbs and supplements and don't know if they're working or not. Like, let's go through them together. Let's look through all
Yeah,
your
bring in those
supplements.
bottles. Let's look at see what you're
Let's
like.
look at them together and assess
Yeah,
what you're doing. And that is, I would say, the biggest problem that I see in my consultations and my
yeah,
clients is they're overwhelmed with information. The noise is actually the part that they are so
right.
deeply overwhelmed about, not their health and their health, right? But it's the noise around the health choices. And you can say, hey, let me help you narrow in what's essential, and that would be the free consult, and then
Love
show up.
that.
So let's pretend that happened. Let's pretend I walk you through all your supplements in your cupboard. You bring it all in, you give me all the things you've tried, all the things you're curious about. How would I move to that next stage of, now I'm going to offer you my 4-month package of
Yeah,
once a month consultations to check
yeah.
in about your
You'll notice if you do a good job with the diet, it kind of naturally they'll want to know like, okay, so now what, right? If you do a really good job of pointing out that they have expensive urine because they have bad supplements, right? All you
Yep,
paid
I
for was
say
just
that all the
things that
time.
had,
Expensive urine. Yeah.
right? And then they go, okay, like, what do you suggest I do? I mean, and we're not saying that they could do a diagnostic, a blood test, right? We're just
Yeah,
assessing the
that's right.
person.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, first we start with this, right? You kind of say, you go back to what they want to achieve, right? You tailor This is the part where you bring in the solution, but it has to be tailored to what they want. So you say, hey, you mentioned this, that you're still feeling really tired, yet you're taking all these supplements. So here's what I'm gonna propose, and I have other people who are using this. Here's the roadmap, and it takes about 3 months before people really notice a difference. And here's why it works. And once you kind of go to that, it doesn't need to be that extensive, but the core offer is where this is where it comes into play. So if I were to return the question to the group, what would you present to me besides the price that you feel is an advantage? What is really good? Yeah, I want to know the core offer.
Well, I'm kind of curious your opinion on this is that I find I've gotten a long way with people when I kind of take a step back and say, well, you actually have a lot of options. Here's what I can specifically offer you. And I like really get humble with it. Like it might not
Yeah,
cover all of your things. I can address this, this, and this, but you would need to see someone else for this, this, and this. Or,
that's
and in
that's
my kind
important.
of coaching, I can help people find the resources and go to that direction. So like, but like in real estate, it's like, well, I do the contracts and the connecting you with service providers. I'm not going to come like mow your lawn before pictures or something like that. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? I don't
that's a
do,
strategic move. Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. So like, for me, I found it really helpful to like paint myself as the expert even further by putting a little distance between all their goals and like getting more specific and pinpointing on like, well, I know I can help you with this, this, and this, and that would be a great place
that's
to start. And then from there, I can help you find resources for XYZ, or we can see if maybe you won't even need that anymore, or something like that. So I don't know if that's selling myself short because every once in a
no,
while someone will take a step back and be like, oh yeah, I really want someone that's gonna like also give me massages or something. And that's just not what I do.
right.
So,
And
but
when
then
you get to
it's
that
not a good
point,
fit.
you have to bring them back to what they said and say, hey, look, when you came
Okay.
to me originally, like you mentioned tiredness or you're exhausted or frustrated or stressed.
Yeah.
That's my specialty, right? Even though massages could help,
Yeah.
this is what I'm the best at. And your core offer, if you know what that is, they'll look at you and kind of go, you're right. Like, because you brought back up what they wanted and their frustrations of achieving it. Like you've been trying this for over a year with no success. You're still waking up exhausted. I
Hmm.
have done this for 10 years. I am the best at X, which is you don't usually make it this far in the consultation unless you've qualified, right? If they bring up something new at this stage, then you probably missed something early on that you could have caught.
Hmm.
That's why by the time you arrive here, it's very narrow about, we
Hmm.
call that the qualifying stage, that you're not going to waste your time offering something that they go, oh, you know what? Actually, I want thicker hair. And you're like, oh, well,
Yeah.
how do we miss this? Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Thanks.
That's really helpful.
Great question though, because, but it's really fun. The diagnostic is what we know sells. Everybody thinks that the sale is made in the presentation when you present your solution. It's actually in the discovery phase, is what we call it. That's where the sale is made. You don't have to do a lot after that if you do that well. So again, what do you sell? Because again, I see a lot of like people in the $1 million, two, three, they get stuck and they plateau. And these are people that are professional coaches. They sell a lot of different things. I go, what's your core offer beyond price? Why would someone buy from you? And then they tell me something, and I go, well, could your team or employees say that exact thing? What would they tell me if I asked that same question? If they don't know, then I know there's a lot of opportunity to make the core offer of what makes our business so good more tight. And then that scales really well. That scales really well. But I love your point, Ami, about not trying to sell everything because that doesn't sell anybody in a lot of cases. So Monique, tell me a little bit about your business. We haven't, yeah. Do you sell, is it coaching or is it products? Is it
I'm not doing anything currently yet, but what I'm working towards is growing all of my own like herbs, medicinal plants, and then making products. And possibly once I've got that like off the ground and going, I might do some one-to-one consultations
oh, very good.
on the side. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So like, and what do you think? I mean, you've been on the other side of it. This is a question for anybody, but what do they really want? Like, what is it that the customer really wants when they come to you, ask you questions, come into a store that offers what you sell? What is it that they're really wanting?
Well, I
Maybe to be,
actually, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Min.
I think she wants you to share Almi because
Oh,
a
okay.
product
Well,
to
I was
make it
good.
awesome.
I was chuckling because I actually started as an herbalist doing consults, and I stopped because people just wanted to talk. They didn't actually want
Yeah.
to do anything. And so that like really frustrated me at that time because it was like, well, I have all of these resources for them and I have all of these ways. I have since had additional training in how to like sort of like turn that person over, which is not an herbal training. It's like learning how to convert people into their own advocacy. But yeah, I still maintain that most people just want to talk. And I would say that that's true as well in real estate because of how many my husband's also a realtor. Every fifth or sixth phone call we get is, some old guy who's lonely and just
Here
wants to
I
talk
go,
about
man.
selling his house. He's not, or like I had a client whose mom died and we talked about that a lot, and it's just not,
Right.
I think people are lonely. They want to be heard. They want to talk through their process and they actually don't want solutions. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they do, but they don't in my experience, it's hard to get them to want to take the solution. Let's put it that way.
And you don't want to waste time on people
Yeah.
that, don't want to actually purchase something. So it's always a tough place to be. I always would use opportunities like that to like hone in my listening skills. And sometimes you have to close on yourself in those situations. Yeah, it sounds like you don't want a real estate agent. It sounds like you don't want pest control. And then they go, no, I don't really want it. And they're like, okay, well, hey, I really appreciate it. Like sometimes I just would close on myself um, to end it because I knew it was just going to go probably nowhere. But those are little tactics. But usually you try to qualify, like there's a filter, like in my case, like I was thinking, could you do a virtual consultation? Like they have to upload all their vitamins, take pictures of it first, and then um, a tool probably does a little analytics on it, and then you set up an appointment to meet with them because if the person has uploaded pictures of what they're taking, they're much more qualified than somebody who's just shopping for information and just curious. There's things you can do to kind of sift out people who really don't want to, they're looking for a human brochure a little bit.
I think that's really helpful, and it goes to show the human condition, right?
Yeah.
Especially when people come to us as practitioners and healers and herbalists, they often have not been heard in medical settings, and they don't actually get to talk to people about their health, their entire health ever, right? They get 15 minutes with the doctor if they're lucky. And we spend an hour and a half with these people. And so it is this interesting part of our journey is to listen. I would say the majority of our healing is that relational piece. But what I have noticed when I see now clients that have cancer, have been diagnosed with cancer, which is the majority of my clients at this point, they are extremely compliant. And their motivation is not just to talk, it's actually to get as
Take
much
action.
information as
Yeah.
possible. So it really matters on your specialty. And I would
Right.
say, as us as practitioners, if your specialty is stress, yes, you better majority of be listening and using some really general tactics on supporting their well-being. That might be teas in the morning, it might be a stretch every day, it might be very subtle because too much is stressful. But if you have someone with an extreme diagnosis, you're going to go heavy on clinical trials, heavy on products, heavy on really supporting them in their well-being. So part of this piece, which Ami, you are absolutely correct. If you're not seeing compliance on what we have to offer, which is herbs, it's because that person or the type of service you're offering is actually people aren't interested in being compliant for it. And that changes what you're
Or
selling,
you haven't, they don't believe
or they
whatever
don't believe.
you said. Like people think vitamin D is vitamin D, like the same as Off like a generic brand of medicine is the same active ingredient. And so there is some education, and you have to create curiosity in them. You have to say, hey, look, like everybody's taking supplements. Everybody knows this, right? And but you could really be provocative and say, like, 9 out of 10 of those just don't actually absorb. Like, but a lot of people don't know that. They still continue to take. In fact, sometimes it does damage. I think people are super curious when you get them curious about something they're doing and that you know something about. It's very interesting to people because everybody wants to know like they're wasting their money on supplements, even though they may react, like shocked about it.
But I think you make a really important point here, David, which is the qualifier. Like,
Yeah,
how did they get through your first layer of qualification? So you're not just sitting there talking to someone who's lonely versus someone who really wants to go down that 6 month journey with you and see the results. Because as a practitioner, it's an exchange, right? You want someone to get better,
right,
you want them to get excited, you want to get excited.
right.
We do hours of research for each of our
Yep.
clients. We need them to be engaged. So that qualifier of I might not be the right person if you want these things, I am the right person if you want these things, I think is really important here.
Yeah, yeah. And then you do that through a little bit of an intake. You can do that. Like if somebody's not willing to submit something, that pretty much tells you like you may be losing people that otherwise would have bought, but you typically have a little hurdle for them to overcome to get to the point before they can meet with you. Um,
Yeah.
if you just take consultations off the street, that would be tough because you have no idea what's coming through the door. But if you say you have to submit this or take this little survey and they do it, and then they have to opt in for a consultation, then you kind of know like something's a little more serious here.
I
And then we
love the
can measure your
saying.
show rate, which is how many people actually show up for the appointment that you booked. And you should be around 80% if you're gonna like be competitive in your space.
That's
So
amazing because a lot of people say 25%,
yeah, show rate should be around like you should be.
80%. I love
So I
that.
teach people in customer service a formula. We call it Spark. And like if you codify and are really good at these elements, like you'll have such a stronger advantage. So the S stands for set expectations. Like if you can set expectations with people, like, hey, this is what I do, this is what I don't do. Here's what you can get from me. The P is be personable, like be friendly, be really like accommodating and nice and easy to talk to. The A is accountability or act with integrity, we call it. Like do what you say you'll do. Make sure if you say I'll follow up with you, you actually follow up. Or I promise to provide you the information that you asked me about, right? The R is responsive, like probably one of the most critical things in customer service is that you are responsive, like you're fast. And we know that when people submit forms, like you should be within like the first, like you should have an automated system, like within 60 seconds, 2 minutes that sets that appointment for you very quick. And then the K is knowledgeable. So that's Spark. You have to actually be an expert or know what you're talking about. People love to talk about someone who's knowledgeable, responsive, and friendly are the big three. And then if you're really good, you set expectations with them so they understand what they're going to get out of this coaching or what they can expect the results to be like when they experience them. Very, very important that those elements are in play. And if your team isn't sure about what responsive means, then you need to define it for them.
Thankfully, there's apps for that at this point.
There are apps, yeah.
If someone fills out a survey and wants this
Right,
consult, there's an automatic response that books it. And then, hey,
right,
I'll follow up with you in a day. And then you can have that manual email or automatic email that goes out.
right, right,
There's so many options these days
right,
for folks to not have an excuse.
right. But if you really want to stand out in the customer experience, like those 5 elements are, you get those down, and then you're better than I would say just the majority, like 95% of companies. Even in real estate, you'll be just quick to respond, always be knowledgeable, be friendly, do what you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and then you set the right expectations with them.
I love that. I think this is also really helpful when it comes to building this clientele. And Ami, you asked a question earlier about word of mouth, how to increase word of mouth or how to kind of build that word of mouth. I think what I'm seeing, because word of mouth is always what we want. We always want people to speak really highly of us. I think the personable piece, and I know this to be true for me, the more I connect with my clients, even that I'm flexible sometimes. And they're like, oh, I really need to change last minute.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm like, okay, well then let's change, and they're like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's okay. Well, I have a rule around 48 hours and I know this is, and I allow a certain amount for certain clients, especially because I want them to feel calm around me. I want them to come to me because I am not a stressor in their life. I'm someone who relieves stress. And that identity, I've gotten more people being like, oh, she's so great. She makes you feel so calm. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about how and I know this because they tell me, building that relationship versus the outcome of their experience, which has been really good, right? Herbs have helped them with anxiety or with mental health
Yep.
issues, or they know how I do research on all their medications. That's like the logistic stuff that they share. But actually, they share more about my personality than they do
Yeah.
about anything.
Yeah, like you're the brand and they buy you and then of course obviously what you sell, but they are bought in to you and your brand for sure. But yeah, selling just as a whole doesn't have to be salesy. In fact, I would say if it's salesy, then you're probably just doing it the wrong way. So one thing I always do is no matter what, I always start friendly in every conversation. So I build rapport and maintain rapport every single time. And I call it the ABCs, which is always be, and they say closing, I say connecting is the right word. Like you're always connecting with the individual throughout the consultation.
Amen.
So first and foremost, you start friendly, you build rapport, and then throughout you maintain it. And then you ask them the questions like, well, how's it going with this? That's the discovery part. So that's kind of like, hey, give me a sense of what progress have you made? What have you tried? And then you go into a little bit of solve mode once you understand their current state and then the difference between that and where they want to be. And then there's a commitment at the end. And then you kind of make sure there's some reassurance after they commit that they're on the right path, they made the right decision. It's really just not a complicated flow. It's just the fundamentals that a lot of people get wrong when they're trying to get commitments out of people. And what I tell people is you have to refer back to what they told you when you asked them what they wanted and why they weren't getting it when they hesitate to commit. Even in real estate, why are they wanting to move right now? What is it about their house that they want to change? What are they? And that kind of points you in the direction of what they want because you just can't expect them to be like, I want an acre that has fruit trees, that has a beautiful office that overlooks. Like they're not going to know that. So you have to extract from them what they really want. And then you can position yourself as very competitive. And then when they oppose, you're like, well, look, you've been wanting to move out of that neighborhood for what? How long has it been? 3 years? Because your kids, it's only getting more dangerous. And you're doing this for the kids, like I'm the best at what I do. I've been doing this for 10 years. I find people the right homes and I know the right areas because I've been working in this very geographic area you want to move to. I can help you. And then you ask for the commitment again. And they go, all right, let's do it. But you got to know what you offer and you have to know confidently that you can help and you've helped other people do it. So it's
Um,
kind of fun. And then you look forward to the like really tough cases. You actually look forward to the people that have really tough questions because you've gotten so good at it.
on me.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about people who think they know what they want,
Yeah.
but they're off base. So, they come to me and they want to lose weight or
Yep.
sleep better, but really it's like, oh, at the core, their overall stress is just ruining every aspect of their life, but they're not like ready to look at that, and so it's like if you try to move the conversation away from like sleep herbs or weight loss tactics or dietary
Yeah. They
changes,
bring it
then
right back.
you kind of
Yeah.
lose them. And I mean, I've wrapped my head around that with real estate pretty good because in that line of work, it's like, okay, let's go see the houses you think you want, and that they
Right.
learn right away that that's not going to get them what they go
No.
and they see, and then they're like, oh yeah. But I don't know like help people. And I mean, I know it's like a little bit of using my expertise to gain that trust and to, be curious for them and say like, I know about all those tactics, but like as far as like a sales perspective, I wonder if you have a comment on that.
Yeah, so like let's just play around with the lose weight but reality, the stress is really a factor, right? Like you never want to not like propose a solution that they've already disagreed with or ruled out. Like that's always tough. So if we did that, I would ask clarifying questions like, okay, so why now, right? You don't really say why now, but this is what I'm thinking. What's this person motivated to do something? Like, how long have they been dealing with this is my question. And they would say 5 years. I say, okay, what have we tried in the past? They would say, I've tried. So you get a sense of like, how committed are they to doing this? Is there anything in the past that makes you want to take more action now? I ask these questions. They go, yeah, like my husband said something. Okay. And tell me about what you do for work or what kind of, like, I would listen to all this. And I always get to a point where I can paraphrase, you want this, but this is what's preventing you from getting it. And then if they say, yes, that's correct, then I know I'm really got their situation figured out. But losing weight to a lot of people is just, it could be an image thing. It could be feeling good. It's not necessarily about the weight, but as much of what it represents. But those, as a good consultant, you have to figure out where their pain's at. And that's the thing. So let's say it's stress, for example. Let's say you've determined that stress is the major factor, right? How would you approach it so that they understand that the stress part, if they get under control, solves the weight problem?
Yeah, so I mean, something similar to like the Socratic method where you just ask those leading questions that takes them on the journey so that they come to the realization that you've already come to. So like if it's like someone who wants to lose weight but stress really seems to be the reason, then it would be something like, well, what do you notice about your eating habits? And can you connect that to other events in your life? And
Right.
how are what are your feelings around eating? And how does and try to bring it to the stress kind of component. I think that for me, it's like I lost my train of thought on that thought I was having with your other thing you were saying, but
But
uh,
it's really hard as a consultant to not diagnose prematurely. Like we call it solutionitis. Like,
yeah, I'm good at not doing that. I think the thing about real estate is that it doesn't really cost me that much. It doesn't cost the client anything for me to take them to a bunch of houses to prove to them that they're wrong about what they want. But in
yeah,
coaching, they're already paying me money, and it would be sad for me if I got someone to the stage where they're paying me money and I couldn't effectively, because I could just sit with someone week after week and let them take their time to slowly come around to it. But I would like to avoid that, and I would like to get to it before we even start coaching.
I
Like
agree.
in that sort of consultation process. And of course, if someone's not ready, they're not ready. But I'm just kind of wondering, like, if I'm trying to tease something out and it's really clear their motivation is to lose weight, but it's also really clear that their like stress factor is the major lifestyle component of that. Like, I guess my more direct question would be, is there a time when it would make sense to kind of say, like, oh, I'm hearing you. I know that you've tried XYZ. I certainly have lots of things we could work on with diet and exercise to help you lose weight. But from what you're saying, it appears to me that actually the biggest component of your life that's affecting your weight loss is your stress. Like, is that appropriate? Like, is that going to push people away if that's not, and all this is being said with like, if they're not a good fit, they're not a good fit. I just don't want to like lose someone because of that disconnect because they're not there, but they're almost there. And then also have them come to coaching with like the wrong idea, or even, I can even just say herbalism. Like a lot of people think taking an herb is going to cure their thing, and helping people see that before they start working with you. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
there's a
totally.
lot of disillusionment in what we do, and I'd like to help like break that before we're in session, if you will.
Part of that is like when I would tell them on the front end what you don't do. This is what coaching is not. And you
Yeah.
have to really set clear expectations about, look, this is what I don't do. Here's what this, a lot of people have misconceptions. So you kind of have to set the expectation.
Mhm.
Almost, we call it talking them out of the sale, but then you entice them in. Like, look, this isn't for everybody. It's only for those that are really committed to lifestyle change. And then, so recognize that I'm going to tell you things that are going to sting, they're going to hurt, and
Mhm.
that's okay. But that's really important for change to happen. If they go, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for, you kind of have set the tone or the stage for what the consultations will be like. Also, when you said like it's evident to you that the stress is causing, I would say, what evidence did you provide them in their life that you're right, even though the research may indicate that? But if they told you the times that they have been at a weight that has been sustainable and they like, has been times of low stress, then it's a
Mhm.
lot easier to say that. But if there's no evidence within your consultation that that's the case, that's a little harder for somebody to take. You have to have a lot of research evidence, but like I would ask enough questions where they have revealed that to me,
Mhm.
where so it's not just me just giving them an opinion from the top and they didn't expect it. They kind of knew, but they should have revealed like, hey, tell me about times when you have been at the desired weight.
Mhm.
Well, what was that like? A little like, oh, my stress was lower. I didn't have, I was doing this. You start to listen, and now you have a very tailored solution and evidence that suggests, and they may even come to that before you do. Like, look, it looks like, yeah, like the commonality here is stress. Then I would ask them, well, what do you do? What are the behaviors you engage in when you're stressed? Like,
Yeah.
what are your eating habits like? And if they reveal like, oh, I eat way worse,
Mhm.
it's almost, this is why the discovery is the sale, not the solution, because this is where you make the sale. If you do
Mhm.
your job here, it's like very evident the solution's coming. And when they say, I don't know if I can commit to this, then you bring back kind of that thing that you learned about in the consultation. That's what sells.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you kind of got me when you said what I wrote down at the beginning was being upfront with them that the
Yes.
remedy might not match their expectation of it.
Yep. And like that's okay because like they don't quite get, I've been doing this a long time and I know that sometimes the solution I propose is not something they expected.
Mhm. Yeah.
But recognize that I'm bringing to you the solution because I've done enough analysis and I wouldn't do it without the proper evidence. They go, okay, great.
Yeah.
Then you ask permission. Is it all right if I hit you between the eyes here? And just this may come as a little shock. If you preface a lot of things that you're direct about in sales, people take it so much better. You can say the exact same thing. You can say, you're ugly, but you preface it with, look, this is going to sting. And I
Mhm.
know you're going to react like the reaction, but you're ugly. Like people go, okay, all right. But a lot of it is the prefacing and the setting the right expectation.
Yeah.
I want to
Okay.
add something there too, Ami, because I see this a lot in my consultations is people assume one thing, but the reality is different. And how I work with this is my storytelling moment with people. I say, this is how I understand what's happening. And because you're the trusted source, right? This is why they show up to you. I say, when cortisol, and I educate them. I said, please stop me. I said, when cortisol increases, our body goes into fight or flight. Our body is holding on to excessive calories. And that's often when we see a midsection, people are gaining weight in the midsection. That's actually stress. And I help them understand very simply that stress is the cause of why it's so challenging to get rid of it. But I'm going to definitely give you herbs to support your metabolism. What I'm also going to do is give you herbs to really help you balance that cortisol. We're going to look at lifestyle. We're going to look at, all these other pieces, and their herbs are fantastic for that. And that's how I go with, as David was saying, it's not the thing, it's the outcome that they're most interested. They are less interested in the journey of how to get there. They want the result. So how do I educate them that they're still going to get a result even if the journey looks very different than what they assumed?
But so would you do that like during a discovery call?
During a discovery call, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah,
There
I
are herbs
think that
called
might be where I'm
adaptogens.
messing up a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I have so much of this in place. Like all the expectations are theoretic, what I do and don't do, it's like laid out in our contract, like all of that's there. It's just I have the occasional person that like thinks what I do is tell them just what herbs to take or, tell them what their diet. And I mean, I have had to write into my contract more like I don't prescribe diets. Like I don't do that. Like I can help you write a diet that works for you, but I don't do because people just want that and that's not what I'm about, and there's nutritionists and other people out there, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to lose someone because most people can wrap their head around that, and that's what ultimately empowers people to heal. But I think I'm missing that piece in the discovery part. So I just need to do more of that then.
And people well, like you're very good about being candid from the beginning. You were saying something to the effect of, here's what I don't do. In some ways, you were about the real estate. You're saying, hey, that like this isn't, I think you were saying this isn't for everybody. Or if you're in this boat, this may not be best for you. Like people really respond well to that. I'd first get their goals. Like, what is it that you want to achieve? And then as you learn about what they want, and then it's easier to say, let's talk about like who I tend to work with and have success with now that I understand your goals, as opposed to doing it before you understand what they want to accomplish. Just it just the tone of it will be more fitting.
Do you have a
So,
word or phrase you use besides goals sometimes?
um, uh,
'Cause that
yeah, I
bounces
don't
off
usually say
people
goals. Like,
sometimes.
what brought you in? Like, what you
Yeah.
obviously set this up. So tell me, what is it that you're hoping to accomplish, or give me, or you can just ask a very general question, like, well, tell me about you. Like, tell me about you set this up, and so I'm really curious to know about you. And then I
Mhm.
like very general questions at the start.
I also ask to add to that, what does health look like to you? When
Mhm.
like working with me, what does that look like to you?
Yeah,
What do you want to achieve from this? And people have very clear ideas usually. What they come with me to me for a very specific thing, but like they do want to feel better. They do want to sleep better. They do. Sometimes it's a laundry list, sometimes it's one thing. I don't want to feel anxious anymore.
yeah,
Big, 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 big goals for
Mhm.
anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, great. Thank you for sharing that with me. And that's where I think, David, as you're saying, because I'm learning too, I'm very much a student in this space, is bringing it back to that thing that they showed up with from the very beginning. And that's your metric on
yeah.
how are you feeling today? What's your anxiety like today? And going back to that over and over again.
Yeah, what I've learned is that people really want clarity above all. And as a good consultant or whatever, they want somebody to help them clarify what they really want and what is the problem, define the problem, and then like a very clear pathway to getting what they want. Like that's really, if you ever look up like antonyms or the opposite of the word coach, you'll find confounder or someone who confuses somebody. And that should really help you also be clear on what value you bring. It's a lot of it's just clarity, helping them figure out what they're confused about, and also like making sure you provide a path to whatever it is that they're trying to get, what pain they're currently experiencing. And so, yeah, it's very simple, but people overcomplicate trying to come up with phrases or techniques. In reality, it's just how well do you connect with the individual? How well do you understand what their circumstances are? And then from there, it's how well do you know your solution that you've tailored to their circumstance? And then I didn't have to really close hard, like with like certain techniques. I would at that point just say, like, here's what I offer. And then I usually had a couple things I would add to the offer. I'd never tried to take off price first. I'd always add something. Well, if you're willing to do this, buy this, then I would like, I'll include this.
Mhm.
Like for pest control, I would say, well, do you have a garage that has a lot of stuff in it? And I'd say, well, I'll include a spider treatment specifically for the garage if you're willing to do this by Friday. I would like to add things instead of all cut price, because that's psychologically not something you want to do. So again, like, what is it that you offer? Like that's unique that you would say, this is what I do, and here's why I'm considered really good at it. And if that's unclear, than to me crafting what you're going to offer a person. I work with people who are sleep deprived, which is about 80% of adults in the United States. Like I really help them figure out how to like wrangle their sleep and then get the type of sleep that they almost turn into a new person. And I have a 6-month program where I do that. And I'll do the first month because I'm so confident what I do, like at cost or whatever, you know, whatever you offer, but like make it so compelling that they're like, yeah, like I need that.
Dave, you shared with me one time about a woman you sold pest control to who just lost her husband.
Oh yeah.
And then you shared with me specifically about what finding her most core value. And one of your core values is freedom. I remember
Yeah.
this in particular because you and I were talking about how to create an offer for people's core values. And I think this gets into that demographics and psychographics, right? The psychographics of your people. I would love you to share a little bit about that story because
Yeah.
I think if your people desire freedom, I think this is a really good example. Like free to choose, like have many, many options.
Yeah. One of the hardest things to do when you sell is to tell yourself a story about their circumstance, and then you close or you just walk away. So I had to create commandments or rules that I followed every summer because I knew if I left it up to me to decide in the moment what I was going to do, like I would choose probably the path of least, I would choose the easiest path. So I had rules I followed. And one of them was that I always would offer everybody what I had, what I was selling, no matter their circumstance. I would never walk away from a porch without making an offer, which is really challenging if you think about it, because I knocked on one door in Texas and this woman came to the door. She was dressed in black and she said, what do you want? And I said, well, here's what I do. And she goes, well, now's not a good time. My husband's literally, I could see him through the window. He's letting his family know we just had a death in the family and it's a really tough time. And so everything in your conditioning, and you guys got to think maybe I'm a scumbag after this. I don't know. But like, you're going to like, you would walk away and be like, well, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm so sorry for your loss. That's what we would do. But I had this rule. And I said, hey, look, I am so sorry. I am sorry that you're experiencing that. And then I said, real quick, we're just going to be here Saturday, which is, 8 days. I mean, 7 days from now, next Saturday. And I'll tell you what, like, we'll get rid of your bugs. A lot of people have bugs and we'll get rid of those for you at half price. And I'll tell you what, I'll just do the first one free. You don't even have to pay for it. She's like, you would do that? I was like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, like next thing I know, we're signing papers on the doorstep, but everything in my body was like, what are you doing? Like she's just had loss. Like they're mourning, like walk away. But I told myself, like, you can't tell yourself stories about they're not going to buy, they'll never buy. And so I just said, like, I'll tell you what, I'll do this for you. If you want, it's up to you. And she's like, yeah. Like I said, just give the credit card to the guy on next Saturday. Don't worry about doing that right now. I just need your autograph right here. And we'll take care of all this for you. She's like, she was so thankful. And I never forgot that because everything in my body was like, just leave them alone. That's what they want. So you have to remember that what you offer, just don't tell yourself a story like that people don't want it or that they won't buy it. Like they will.
But you took a risk because you
Yeah.
don't give things for free at the like you didn't make commission on that first one. You might if she
Yeah.
didn't sign up for long term, you wouldn't have made any
Yeah.
money on that sale.
Right.
You
And
took
she
that
didn't
risk.
cancel. She actually did the first service and then did the next one after that. And I realized like just because you think someone won't do it doesn't mean they won't. Like you should offer, and you could do it in a very kind way, like a very loving way, and say, "Hey, look, I know this is a tough time, and you just told me you lost your job. I get it. Like here's why this is going to be important, and like you'd be surprised." But that's the mentality I think when you sell something that you have a solution for people because even the subconscious picks up this thing must be of value if this person's persisting. This must be important if you're going to stand here still and talk to me when I told you I'm not interested. So,
Absolutely. I think what you're speaking to is still listening, right? You're listening to her. You gave something away for free, acknowledging the grief, acknowledging the strain, making her job very easy, which is saying yes to something she doesn't even have to pay for. But
Yeah,
you've
don't
still
worry about it.
kept your rule of not walking away without an offer.
Yeah. And I just remember how happy, even though she was going through this like grieving period, like that I did this. And
Yeah.
like even my teammates were like, I can't believe you did that. Like, whoa, man, like that's crazy. Why would you sell somebody that's like they would just walk away? I've tried to sell people that threaten me physically. They're like, hey, if you don't leave, I'm gonna do this. And I'm just like, well, like the reason why I'm here, I would still offer like we could do this for you. And they're like, no. And I would just go, okay, well, it's not easy to sell, but at the same time, like if you have something of value, it makes it a lot easier.
That's great. And I think that confidence piece. I was going to ask you about introverts, but I'm going to have Ami ask
Yeah.
her question.
Well, I just wanted to add to that because real estate does come up against people's life events a lot. And also, I have an estate sale company. I do estate sales for people, and
Oh, wow. Yeah.
estate sales are when people die. But
Right.
also, herbalism and coaching, whenever someone is in a difficult time in their life, that's all the more reason to sell harder that they need to make good choices and that
Yeah.
they need advocacy. And sometimes that is the selling point, not to like prey on someone's difficulty, but I actually have found that like when people are really sick, for example, or really do need herbal help, it's like, please let me help you. Please let me make sure you're in good hands. Like I would feel so much better if you would let me, I usually give people a discount or like you did the free thing, but I really love what you said about an additional, like, let me throw in an extra session,
Yeah.
because you're in a really tough time. And I find that people really respond to that. And it doesn't have to be an insincere sentiment. It can actually be because you do care. And it can be that part of your money making in your business where you're doing the seva, you're giving the offering to the world, so to speak, So
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that story.
Yeah. And I took a lot longer than most people to make a sale. I wasn't like moving fast. Like people would knock into me and they'd be like, how is it that you've only like knocked 10 houses? My style was not quick, fast. It was slower. Some people would tell me their life story at the door, after I made the sale. And I just was like, well, so I'd set up conditions that were favorable to my personality. So when I knocked in a neighborhood, I wouldn't have somebody like we wouldn't split up a neighborhood. I would be completely isolated by myself. So I knew I could take my time. And that was really important to me to sell the way I wanted to. But if somebody, usually guys will want to like you knock towards each other and then like you got to go fast because the other guy's knocking the doors you would have knocked. And I set up conditions that were favorable to how I like to do it. And the more I learned that that's okay, you need to sell the way you want to sell, or basically offer a solution the way you want to and you feel good about, it's going to come across a lot better. But what problem are you solving, And then I would say don't expect them to, even if they think they're clear on what they want, like you have to know what that really means to them. Like, what does it mean that you want to get into a better neighborhood? And then the more you pull from the person and the more curious you are, the more it's like, oh, it sounds like you need to leave your current neighborhood for the following reasons. And really what you want more than anything else is a yard for your kids to run around it. So that way they can have the childhood that you envisioned. Then once you kind of learn like that's the most critical, and then you learn other things, then there's emotion attached to that for them. And then when you tap into that, then it's a lot easier to say, look, this is what I'm this is what I can do to help you.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask a question that you and I have had many extensive conversations about, which is
Yeah.
introverts. So we have a lot of introverts in this group. We love our introverts. And
Hmm.
I think that a big barrier that people have shared is the first call, like the getting out for the first time, having that initial
Oh
conversation.
yeah.
Um, I am curious how any tactics you have of building
Hmm.
confidence for introverts to be able to get themselves out there to have the first conversation or the first discovery call? What is the kind of internal piece? Because I know you identify as an introvert. You're an
Totally. Yeah.
ambivert, really, which is introvert
Right. I
extrovert.
would say that's probably more accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
First off, you embrace the idea that when you first engage with somebody, they don't want someone who's overbearing. Like if I squared up my shoulders to you on your doorstep and just stared at you with like a Superman pose, you wouldn't be that intrigued. So the introverts actually have an advantage in that first engagement because they're not threatening as much. The only thing I would say is just if they're nervous, it does come out. Like you have to smile calmly and your movements need to be slow, but embrace the softness. Like if you're a little meek, people will actually respond really well. I would soften my voice and make them kind of lean in a little bit more because then it takes all that, like this person isn't threatening. And then the confidence is how you react to the things they say more than anything else. But smiling kind of makes a huge difference when you look up at somebody and then smile slowly and big, like you're saying, I'm confident and I'm comfortable right here with you. And so the things that make introverts so easy to talk to, they're on full display in that first like interaction. And it actually gives them an advantage versus like being a little bit more outgoing and louder. Like that doesn't go well when you first connect with somebody. And then I have a technique that I followed because you will get a wave of objections in the beginning, and then you get another wave of objections when you ask for the commitment. So I called it the AIR method, which is you always acknowledge whatever they said. You then ignore it. The I stands for ignore, and then you redirect. And I only do this like 2 or 3 times before I don't persist anymore. And it doesn't take long because if I had a formula I followed, then I knew like no matter what they threw at me, I would acknowledge it. So like say like I have a dog that's going to attack you. You're like, well, I have one of those at home too. Like I understand wanting protection. Like I love dogs. Like I've acknowledged it. Then I just ignore it. Because if I go, well, what kind of dog is it? Like then I give like the excuse to not talk to me more. It makes it more real. And they'll come up with more reasons to tell me not to talk. So I just ignore it and then I redirect them. I just redirect to what I'm doing. Like, hey, I'm just here, you know, braving the dangers of dog attacks because then I get them redirected to what I'm there for. And they're like, well, how much is it? And then I knew the milestones. So for me, it was like them asking me how much and then me returning the question, what's the square footage of your house? I knew if I got there, I could get to the next phase. And so any consultation has milestones to it. And that way you break it up into little pieces. And an introvert does well with that because they know no matter what, they can direct the conversation to a point. And if they still like, I don't want, like my dog really will attack you. I really don't like people coming to my door. I'll say, look, you not interested in pest control, or is that something that you've ever, they're like, no. I'm like, okay. I never got the cops really called on me. Other people have with that knock doors because I was always just very like, okay, like that's fine.
That's
But
helpful. So
introverts do very well.
what I'm hearing is structure is really
Yeah.
helpful, is to write out how you move through the consult, the discovery call or the consultation. What I'm also hearing about is there's an advantage for introverts being good listeners and being a little shy sometimes.
Yeah, they're very good at sales.
What I would probably add, and I'm curious if like building up confidence before that is, I'm wondering if any introvert here, anyone that is experiencing a lot of imposter syndrome of doing something that's really exciting and joyful for yourself before you get on a call versus, whatever that worrying piece, because I think tactics wise, it's really important to be calm and centered and
Yeah.
happy with who you are before you jump in to try to sell something that can feel really nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Yeah.
if you have any tactics that you use to get
Yeah.
yourself.
Weird tactics, but I would smile in the mirror until it looked real to me. That was one of my routines.
Mhm.
I would practice every morning. Like even in the shower, I'd be rehearsing the consult, and then I'd be thinking through where things got stuck. And I would, on my best days, I recorded myself talking. So I'd record myself and I'd re-listen to that when I was struggling to sell.
Mm.
Um, I've learned that confidence in sales or almost in anything is knowing what's going to happen next. And so introverts tell me they're not confident. And then I'm like, it's because you probably don't know what you're going to do when they say this. And if you learn how the obstacle course is navigated, then introverts all of a sudden can be easy, kind of like be centered and really like calm. And that's what they do best at because they already know what's going to happen for the most part or how they're going to respond. It's the ones that don't feel like they know what they're talking about, don't know what question to ask. What if they say this? Everything like that is what gets anybody, especially introverts, tripped up because they're just not sure what they're going to do. So the key is know what you're going to do before you do it, right? Because you've practiced it so many times and you know what your offer is it's very clear what you're good at and what you're not good at. And they respect it. They'll be like, okay, I want this.
That's really helpful. I know we only have about 10 minutes left, or just 9 minutes. I'm curious if Monique or Ami, if you have any more questions, because I have one more question about products, because I know
What's
everyone
that?
products. I have a question about product
Oh,
sales.
products. Yeah.
Yeah. Ami, no. Monique's good. Okay. Bringing all of this is really helpful because it's all about practitioners, and there's a lot of practitioners in the space. And I think because these price points are much higher, these relationships are much longer, there's a different set of problems as there is when you're selling products. I know how to sell products, but I'm curious what you see when you're selling something like a tincture or, a spray or an essential oil, and someone walks up to your booth and starts talking to you. How would you frame that basic, this is very transactional conversation?
Yeah. I like to get them to admit
And they don't
ignorance.
know what these things are, by the way.
Yeah. Like that's good in some ways because I like them to admit ignorance first. A lot of people say you have to get yeses from people. I'm like, it's more powerful to get a no, which means this. Like I would say, how much do you know about herbal medicine or whatever the product is? And they're like, if they say a lot, then the nice thing is I shift, then they have to agree with me because then I say, well, then you know this, and then you know this. And they go, yes, yes, which is why I sell this. And they go, awesome. If they say no, I go, that's okay. A lot of people don't. Here's the most common mistake people make. And then I sell the product based on like most people do this, but they don't realize this. This is what this does. They go, oh, like, because then I would ask people, like, how much do you actually know about the pest control product we sell? If they said a lot, I go, then you know that we only use this method and this product, which is the safest. They go, yeah, that's cool. If they say no, I'm like, perfect. The biggest mistake you can make is to buy this product. And this is why we do this. We use it in nurseries and in hospitals. And they go, that's great. So like that's the approach I like to take with product is ask them the level of knowledge they have. And no matter what they tell you, you can move in that direction or you can move in the other.
I think that's gold. That's actual gold, because a lot of times people walk up and you're like, just let me know if you need any help. It's almost like people just want people
Yeah.
to shop. But in my experience, especially with herbs, nobody knows anything. And you will get the one person out of the 25, maybe 50, that actually knows quite a bit, and they're eager to tell you how much they know, versus the people who are just really curious. They might smell really good where you are, or they like all the bottles, or they like the packaging. It's like they're curious, and an herbal tea is going to help them in their
Yep.
digestion or their sleep or whatever, right?
Right. I mean, the only thing I'd add is like I always would start with something outside of the sale to strike up a conversation. Like, I like your purse, or hey, I noticed your bumper sticker said you have an honor roll student. Like, I have a son who's on the honor roll. Like, all of a sudden, I become more than just a person selling a product. I become a human, a dad. I'm no longer a person trying to just push something. There was swing set in the yard. I would say, hey, like that reminds me of my daughter loves to swing. I was just pushing her not that long ago, and she wanted me to go higher. And then, like, I notice if I do that, then I bring up why I'm there. It's a very different shift in the conversation. So I'll always look for something to connect with them outside of the reason you're talking to them in the first place. Like, genuinely, like, I love your shoes. I was actually thinking about buying those. And then shift to, well, you came over here. What was it that brought you over to us? Very different outcome when you just begin with something outside of the sale itself.
Mm. I love
Usually I try
that.
to see something that I can relate to them on, and then all of a sudden the dynamic just shifts in my favor. And I don't mean that to be like I've got like power. It just means that I'm no longer just a person pushing a product.
I
It's
can see
it's
that
that's
working.
it's very effective.
I can see that working also for people who want to get their product in stores. So you're really selling to the store because the store has its own quotas and budgets and so much. And if you connect with the buyer there, you are going to have so much more opportunity to bring your product in and create less risk for them because you have a good relationship and they're going to able to tell you, hey, your stuff's not selling. Can we put it on sale or whatever? Versus someone who's just like a generic product that has no human behind it.
Right. Right. Yeah, and like those relationship-based sales, like when you're selling to B2B, like it's going to be critical that they have a great interaction with you because this is the person they're going to be interacting with for a long time. And so they're going to want to, assess that you're friendly, that you know what you're talking about, right? And they, okay, then I'm interested in what you have.
Totally. We only have
But
a few.
building rapport is huge in the beginning, especially if you haven't established a relationship. But I do it even if I have a relationship with them.
Mhm. We only have a few minutes, David. I'm curious if you want to share your major nuggets. You've given us a lot in this period of time, but what you see the biggest mistakes people make at this stage, the very
Yeah.
early stage, that are connecting with people and their well-being. I mean, we are all selling well-being, and what you think you wish people knew more of.
I think I just knew my offer so well. And like I just see people get stuck in plateau and they just don't know exactly what they're selling. Therefore, they lean on price or something to entice the person. Whereas they don't do value-based selling, which is like, this is what value I bring that's unique to me. This is what I'm qualified to do that not many people can do. And this is why my customers keep coming back. That has to be so well refined. And you think, well, what did you do for pest control? Like I knew exactly what made us so unique. Like we had an agricultural license, so we were able to offer the most safe product. And I'll do your whole lawn. I knew what made us so good that if you just gave me a chance to talk, like once we got to that point, it was it was solved. But what I see a lot of companies and businesses do is they're not really positive the value that they're bringing, and it's not clear, and therefore their results become unclear. They've hustled really hard. They've worked their network. They have done a lot of relationship base, but now it's time to like scale it, and it's very difficult. They keep trying to like push on the throttle, but they first have to refine what they're offering. And again, sell the diagnostic, like sell like try come and like we'll do an assessment and they'll be very impressed if you know what you're doing. They'll say, okay, well, how do I go from here to getting more of these? Because that's what a professional does. They're very good at assessing. That's where you win them over.
Thank you. Ami, one more question before we end today.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, the diagnostic, like in the coaching world, it's always like a free consult, free discovery call. I really don't love those words. Do you have a suggestion for a way to give it more
Um,
value?
yeah, I'm trying to think in the coaching world how I would pitch it because yeah, you don't want to do the free, let's do an intake of some kind. Um, it
Well,
could be
even
problem specific, like it could
yeah.
be like let me think through that because like when you think about the coaching world that you belong to, what have people come to you for that you're probably having these conversations all the time with people that learn about what you do? What kind of questions are they asking you?
Yeah, so far I haven't had a lot of herbal or coaching business come through like a discovery session. It's
Yeah.
been word of mouth. And so, like, I'm just trying to think of how to pitch that discovery piece or diagnostic piece with a better bent. Because I don't know, I just don't love the book a free discovery call. It's just like
Yeah,
so
I get that.
pedestrian, if you will. And
Yeah.
And I don't mind offering like a really good amount of time or value as part of that. Like,
What information would you need from them to make sure that that time spent, if you're going to assess, or maybe they pay for a discovery call,
mhm,
and then if they move forward with you, you just apply that to the
mhm,
coaching. But like,
mhm.
what would you want from them in advance to make sure that that 30 minutes or whatever you spend with them is really valuable? What would they provide you?
That's really depends on the person and it's like a case by case basis, but I guess I would really want to know what their core desire is and their core problem.
And
But
what
it's
evidence
more
do they
like
have in
what
their life that says like, I am committing to you analyzing my choices?
evidence?
Yeah,
What
what is that?
um well, just they're suffering in some way, either physically, mentally, or yeah.
I'm trying to think of what, like if I gave Laura all the different vitamins that I have, which are probably like
Mm-hmm.
20, and if I somehow provided her that list, but
Mm-hmm.
Laura, I just need you to like, look, I'm taking all this stuff. I have no idea
Yeah.
what's working.
I guess like in the coaching world, that's like the free item of value, like join my 5-day detox or like
Right.
one that I'm kind of writing now is like a free online kitchen clean out course where we just go through the kitchen and be like this, not that, and kind of like something someone can get for free, but that's not exactly the one-on-one.
What would you say you're like the best at? Like you're very confident if I put you in a room with coaches like you, that you'd still like
Well, I
be
know
the
my
best.
unique bent is that I'm an herbalist and a coach. So I can do more than just hear your physical symptoms. I can also like help you navigate your psychological process around your entire health journey using like research-based psychology, not just herbalism and like, oh, I know the technical information about the plants and the biochemistry of your body and how it could work, but also like, because health is multifactorial and so I know I have something specific to offer.
Do you work with burnout or stress or weight loss? Like
Yeah.
Laura was talking about, like
Yeah,
what?
so that's the big trick with mine, and I actually made a note that I need to research like phrasing around life coaching. I don't really consider myself a life coach, but I do pull from any area of life that's negatively impacting someone. So, but the main selling point I'm attracted to working with people who want to simplify their health process, simplify their life,
I think they
simplify
want that too.
so and so I'm still working on how to message
That
that.
means focus to me, but what does it mean to you? Simplify, or what does it mean to them when they bring it up?
Well, I haven't got that far yet. That's just I'm sort of like I am a maximalist when it comes to all this stuff, like in my head and like tactics and whatever. So, um, yeah, it is actually a little bit challenging for me to simplify the content so that it is actually simple. But yeah, I'm looking for someone who's maybe burned out or
I would
overworked or
think, or
but it's
anxious,
people who want to bring it
anxiety,
in. Yeah.
or
So.
if when the conversation's going well, when you're like, oh,
Mhm.
if we're talking about this particular subject, what is that subject that you feel like, oh, I know what I'm talking about when we get here? When they bring up what?
Oh, well, herbs for
Okay.
sure.
Herbs just in
Like
general, or like as it relates to energy, what is
I
that?
would say what I would call nutritional like herbalism, so like kitchen herbs, food herbs,
Okay.
incorporating herbs into your life so that it's not an extra thing, it's just like a day-to-day regular, it's like eating, you know? And then also like home environment is another big one for me. Just that simplifying the home environment and then like cutting out the noise in general of all health information of how to like have confidence in blocking out that constant stream that's coming.
Is it wasteful, all that stuff that's noise, or is it just what is it that is actually the problem with that?
Yeah, it depends on the person. So for some people, it's
The
it's waste.
majority that
Some people are like buying mini course after mini course after mini course and never completing them. Some people are trying to do all the things and they are doing all the things, but really they just need to put a little salt in their water. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like
interesting.
a real mix. But like my tagline is simplify your health. So like I'm maybe there's a way to like craft that into a discovery diagnostic call. Like how can you simplify or like maybe a I don't know, a quiz or survey like you're saying of like, is your health process too complicated or something like that?
If you're taking more than 5 of this, I can guarantee you are overthinking or overcomplicating your health. Like something where it's like, I guarantee it meets this threshold, which is the majority of people.
Mhm, okay.
Also, the simplify, I just would, and I think Laura brought this up in the beginning, is what outcome does that do I have? And if it's just healthier living or just
It's calm.
most people, it's calm.
Yeah.
See, that's what you're selling.
Yeah.
Like to me, you're simplifying to achieve calm, like of some sort, which appeals to, and I would just be really clear on the advantages that you give people. Because I haven't heard that one before, even though I'm sure it's out there about simplifying because of all the waste that, and your example about salt is really interesting to me because that's a good example, illustration of what you offer that I'm like, is that it? I don't need to go and get these packets of vitamins and then, have them scheduled. And, I take like 20 of those a day. Like, you're like, no. In fact, it's actually just wasteful. Like to me, you are a voice of credibility, of reason in a world that says you need to take more of more, right? More equals more. Anyway, the more you clarify
Yeah.
what you
Okay.
offer, the more now I can help you formulate the questions you would need. And
Hmm.
then you can come up with a really good method to not do a free consult. Because at first you were kind of like very general. It was like overall health max this. And I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my core. Yeah, I was gonna say, can we have him back for marketing?
I'll
Yeah,
do
because
my best. I do know the boss.
but if you target like sleepiness or like burnout to me is such a major that people are medicating to
Mhm.
not like they're either caffeinating or taking supplements or they're taking prescriptions. And I know it makes them nervous to do this. And then they do the sleep pills on top of that to like bring yourself back down. Then they repeat it. And if your audience is you're very specific about this is what I offer you, and I've done so much research. I think you could be really compelling in that space, but it's just too broad from the start.
Yes, I know. Yeah, thank you.
But I do
Thank you,
like,
David.
yeah, you bet.
Thank you for going. You went over, so
Oh
thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
going
yeah, thank
over. And
you.
Happy
Ami,
to
no, I
talk
think
through
that
examples.
was a really important dive into some coaching for you, Ami. So thank you, David, and I'll ask for you to come back. I know you charge $1,000 an hour usually, so thank you so
No,
much
you're
for
good. You're good.
hanging out here with all
It's
of us.
fun to watch this stage because I really have a lot of compassion for entrepreneurs because it reveals a lot of things about yourself that you didn't know. And I think you have to face some demons, and it's fun to watch people overcome it and then to guide them. It's simple but hard is what I say. The offer needs to be clear and speak to the outcome that the person wants, and try not to like dye the ocean a different color, just a swimming pool. Like you're only working with people who want this. And then you will actually be more appealing to a lot more people than just that swimming pool.
Agreed. Thank you so
So
much.
you bet.
Thank you,
You
everyone.
bet.
Thank
All
you.
right. We'll see you.
All right, have a
Nice
beautiful
meeting you.
rest of your day.
Okay, we'll see
Thank you
you.
so much. Bye.